So, solving systems. A system of equations is a set of equations with the same variables that together describe a situation. So, you can have two equations, you can have three equations. It's just some multiple equations, not just a single equation, where you're going to find out, or where they describe the same situation. A solution or answer to a system, or what we're looking for, is the point or points, because in some cases you can have more than one, or values when the equations are equal. And we are going to write our answer or solution as a coordinate. So this is important. You always write your answer as a coordinate. So x, comma, y. If there were other letters, it would be first variable, comma, second variable. We will eventually do where there are three variables, and you would do just x, comma, y, comma, z, or whatever. But for now, it's just going to be x, comma, y. The x value, comma, the y value. There are different types of solutions. So you can have just where they have one set or one solution. So if that was the first equation, and that's the second, this one has one solution. You can have something that looks like that, where they never cross, and this would be no solution. You can have where you have that line, and then you have that line directly on top of it. And this would be infinite solutions. So it touches an infinity number of times. So everywhere on the pink line, the purple line is also touching. And then the last type that we're going to talk about for now in this unit is, of course, we've been talking about, we're in the quadratics unit, so we're going to talk about a parabola. So if I have a parabola like that, I could have a line that goes across and this one has two solutions. So for now, we're just going to be talking about one solutions, no solution, infinite solutions, and two solutions. So if you get something where you have issues, and we'll talk about it, you're going to just say no solution. They never cross. Okay? What we're going to specifically talk about today is solving systems by substitution. So solving systems by substitution. Okay, so if the word substitution, if you think about that, the word substitution means, like, if you're thinking about a substitute teacher, they replace the original teacher. So your system, when we're talking about substitution, you're going to be replacing information. So if I gave you the equation negative 2x plus y equals negative 4 and y equals 4, you will see that symbol. That symbol just means both of them are together. They're not two separate equations. Sometimes you'll see it, sometimes they'll just say that it's a system. So there you go. Now we're going to, sorry, I'm trying to get so that I spell the next thing right. So the first thing that you're going to do is you're going to replace. So the whole reason we call it a system by substitution is we're going to replace. Well, and I will finish writing there. But if you look at this, it says y equals 4 in this equation. Well, if you look at that top equation, it says negative 2x plus y equals negative 4. Well, this equation right here tells you what y is equal to. It tells you y is 4. So I'm going to take out the y and replace it with the 4. So replace y with what it equals. And I'm going to put a little note here. If it is not set equal to y, make sure you set equal to y, or whichever variable is there. So then we're going to rewrite this equation as negative 2x plus 4 equals negative 4. Okay, the next thing. Now, if you notice, we only have one variable, and we know how to solve when we just have one variable. So you're going to solve for the variable. Okay, so remember, whenever I solve, I always circle the variable I'm trying to solve. The opposite of add 4 is subtract 4 and subtract 4. So it'd be negative 2x equals negative 4 minus 4. Negative 4 minus 4 would be negative 8. Okay, I'm going to finish solving. So it's negative 2 times x, so I need to divide by negative 2 and divide by negative 2. So x equals a negative divided by a negative is a positive. 8 divided by 2 is 4. So that tells me that x equals 4. Now, if we think about this, it says normally you won't have, normally you will just find the x and then you'll have to find out what y equals. So the last step that I want you to write down, and in this case we don't really have to do it because it told us what the y value was, but in most cases you're going to have to, I didn't want to write in pink, sorry. You're going to have to replace or substitute the variable in the equation. So I'm going to plug this 4 in so that I can make sure that my y value is correct. So I'm going to do negative 2 parentheses 4, because that's what it tells me my x value is, plus y equals negative 4. And I'm just going to make sure that this is correct. Okay, negative 2 times 4 is negative 8, plus y equals negative 4. Add 8, add 8. So y equals negative 4 plus 8, or 8 minus 4 would be 4. So I did box those, but remember you have to write your solution as x, so 4, comma 4, which is y. Okay, sorry, there was an announcement, so I had to pause. So that is our solution. Okay, now I'm going to do one with a linear system and a quadratic. So kind of like that solution that was on the back, where it had the parabola and then the line. So I'm going to get that equation. Okay, sorry, I wrote it down while I was paused. I just wanted to make sure I had the right equation. So y equals x squared plus x minus 2, and y equals negative x plus 1. So if you notice, we're going to use substitution. So if you look, it says y is equal to negative x plus 1. So I'm going to take this information right here and replace it with our y. So that's our first step. Replace y with what it equals. So I'm going to put negative x plus 1 equals x squared plus x minus 2. So if you notice, all of this information I just plugged in for y right there. Okay, and then it says solve for the variable. Now, if you think about this, this one right here was just an x, so we just got it by itself. This actually has multiple variables. There's an x squared, there's an x, there's a negative x right there. Well, when you do this, you can't just solve for x. So since it's a quadratic, you must set equal to 0. So I'm going to get it set equal to 0. So I'm going to add x and subtract 1. Add x and subtract 1. So it'd be 0 equals x squared. 1x plus 1x would be 2x. And negative 2 minus 1 would be negative 3. Now it is a quadratic equation, and you're going to solve. And you can solve, I'm going to write all of your choices out. So you can solve by completing the square, the quadratic formula, in some cases you can factor, and then, or you could graph it. I'm going to do the quadratic formula just because it will work every single time. So I'm going to do the quadratic formula. So our a value is 1, our b value is 2, and our c value is negative 3. So I'm going to do the opposite of b, so opposite of 2 plus and minus the square root of b squared, so 2 squared, minus 4 times a, which is 1, times c, which is negative 3, divided by 2 times 1. Okay, and then I'm going to type in what's in the square root first, so 2 squared minus 4 times 1 times negative 3, which is 16. So it would be negative 2 plus and minus the square root of 16 divided by 2. Well, the square root of 16 is 4, so I'm just going to rewrite that as negative 2 plus and minus 4 divided by 2. And then again, remember you have to write them once as a positive, once as a negative. So negative 2 plus 4 divided by 2, and negative 2 minus 4 divided by 2. If you don't remember this stuff, you're going to have to go back and watch the video for the quadratic formula. But since we've covered that, I'm not going to explain a whole lot. So negative 2 plus 4, or 4 minus 2, is 2 divided by 2, and negative 2 minus 4 would be negative 6 divided by 2. 2 divided by 2 is 1, so x equals 1, and x equals, so negative 6 divided by 2 is negative 3. Okay, now we're going to go plug that back in, and I'm going to plug it into this equation. I could plug it in up there, but this equation looks simpler. So I'm going to plug the first one in. So it'd be y equals negative 1 plus 1. Well, negative 1 plus 1, I'm going to show you, negative 1 plus 1 is 0. So y equals 0. And then I'm going to plug in the other one. So y equals negative 3 plus 1. So negative or a negative times a negative would be a positive 3 plus 1. So that would be 4. So, and this is the first one. So when my x value is 1, my y value was 0. When my x value was negative 3, my y value was 4. So that is those are your two solutions. Because it's a quadratic and it makes that parabola, there's always a possibility of two solutions. So you always have to plug it in to see what the other solution is. And you have to use both x values and make sure to keep, and this is where people will mess up, you have to make sure to keep the 1 with the 0, this 1 with the 0, and the negative 3 with the 4.